Well, we're going to discuss the harem anime today because there's been a couple of little things that have been going on. I don't know if most of you have realized that this is going on because actually we all don't really care too much. But of course, you have those little tiny groups in Twitter, whether it's here or overseas, whether it's in England or Japan, or if it's in South America, that you're always going to get. They're going to give you their 2 cents of the situation, and they're always going to hate the situation no matter what you do. It's best to avoid these people. Do not give them the time of day as far as answering what they're saying online. But I have to laugh at some of the things that are said sometimes because a lot of them don't realize that when certain shows are made, especially ones that take place in a different time period, you're going to have elements of that time period. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share this video, hit that notification bell, switch to all, and you'll receive all of our notifications here on QTCast TV and Man with the Show. So, Demon Slayer. We're just now starting the new season of Demon Slayer. We just finished up the Mugen Train little thing, which I like that. I haven't seen the movie yet, and this allowed me to see the movie prior to that, but I will see the movie once I buy the DVD of it. And once again, buy physical media, very important. Now, we're going to be starting one of the, I wouldn't call it controversial because basically you have to look to the perspective of the time period. We're starting the entertainment arc, the entertainment district arc, excuse me, let me rephrase that. And if you're not familiar with what is the entertainment district arc, it's a section where they go to a place that is, I would have to say, more towards similar to Vegas, but a little bit more risque in a lot of ways. Of course, there's prostitution, there a lot gambling, a lot of things that are going on in this place. And I think the story is supposed to take place. I think they got about 8 more episodes on this for this story arc for, I guess, this season. But one of the things that are being acknowledged, besides that some people don't like that, because kids are watching this, but, it is kind of violent. If you want your little kids to watch it with them because there might be some issues on there, because I never recommend little kids watching some of this anime. I mean, there is anime out there for kids. Don't get me. There is some anime out there for kids. But when you have something like this where it is a little bloody, and I don't expect it to be very sexualized. I mean, there might be a little fan service to the nature for this season. But all in all, it's going to be bloody. It is going to be very bloody, including the last couple episodes that was on with the Mugen Train arc. Now, just in the past episode before this arc was starting, joining up with Tanjiro, Nezuko, Zenitsu, and Isuki, and they're headed for this place, this entertainment district, to fight demons. That supposedly there are demons there. The one other thing that has been pushed out is that Tenjin has multiple wives.
Oh my.
And we've been hearing, especially out of Japan, that there is a very minute small group of feminists, which basically people in Japan don't really pay attention to because they're listening to what's on Twitter, and they want to change situations, but the way they're going by it is the same way they're trying to go by it on this side of the world. And you have to remember, the real true feminists don't like what these other feminists are doing, because it is some of the stupidest things that you will ever see come out of anyone when it comes to trying to censor things without getting to know what the show is about, the book or anything else to that nature. And like I said, Tenjin is going to have 3 wives in the series, and you've seen that in a lot of the press coverage of this, and in the opening as well, the new opening that's happening. But you got to look to when this takes place. You have to understand that first of all, the Demon Slayer itself takes place at the early part of the 20th century, which is basically about 1912 to 1926. Now, prior to that, just to give you a little history perspective, in 1868 and a couple of years later, the samurai was dying out. So when you see situations and you're wondering why they're trying to keep themselves hidden, the Demon Slayer Corps and stuff like that, the change in the government itself, the feudal era and all that has been changed over, and the government is planning to change again, because what we're bordering into here in Demon Slayer is the First World War. Now, also, when you look at the contrast between the period itself, you're seeing the changes. Now, mostly you when you look at it first, you're like saying, "Oh, look, it's the samurai era." But once you start to get into Tokyo and all the major cities, you start to see a change. And of course, Mugen Train, you have an actual steam engine here, so you could tell what time period it really is, because basically, Japan goes through a major change in the late 1800s to World War, going into the First and Second World War. Now, you have to understand that Unfoldable Studios, who is responsible for the series, took time to research this era, to bring the authenticity to, and also the person who wrote this manga as well took time to look into Japanese history. And that's very entertainment. There are those out there that you get a little crazy to the situation when they create animes, which it's okay. You have that one, I think it's called Yasuku, that's on Netflix, which is a samurai warrior, but you have technology, like they have giant robots in the series itself, but that doesn't have nothing to do with it. But that's okay. I could take that on there. And the same thing with the Seventh Samurai series that they did in anime too, which also had robots, which is technically not out of the period on there, but that's okay. You can have something like that to the nation. That's what makes anime very special, that they're able to do this properly. But you get some of the anime that are respectively and obviously practically historically accurate. And that's also a very good thing, because it does teach in a way what was going on in the time period as a backdrop, which, anything that has a backdrop where you could throw in the history of certain countries on there, it's very good. It doesn't overwhelm the situation, but still you get a feel of, what is the period? What is going on here? Now, the reason I bring this up, and this is going back to the many wives situation in Demon Slayer, is there was a time, and you could look this in history, that there was a time that polygamy was okay in the country of Japan.
Oh my.
And basically it was legal. It was not until 1945, after the Second World War, that a new constitution was done, and polygamy, it was still legal for a bit, and then finally was abolished. I mean, if you look today, you hear these stories where a man marries 2 wives there. I mean, it happens on this end of the country, especially, I think it was Utah. You see that situation going on, and it's still illegal. It is still illegal today. But when you look back before this was made illegal, polygamy was legal, and there was going to be stories in anime that's just like this, that shows that there were people that were that there were marriages that where one husband married multiple women and had multiple children. And the thing is, you put when you look at it and you say, well, they must have been forced or anything. No, this was part of the time period. This was accepted at points in history. Now, I'm married myself. I would not marry someone else with my wife. My wife would kill me, that perspective. But I believe marriage, one man, one man and woman. That's it. But I'm not going to criticize something that happened decades ago that is being shown in a movie or an anime today. It was okay then, and it's not okay now. And the thing about it is that the way they push this out, it's like Demon Slayer is basically pushing something that has never happened before. But they don't realize is that throughout the years, there have been, you can go back to many years. I mean, even right now, you have the quintessential quadruplets, the Fruit of Griza, the World God Only Knows. You also have False Love, Rosario plus Vampire, Rent a Girlfriend, Mushiko Tensei, Redo the Healer, and many others throughout history. And you could tout this back years. Technically, one of these, you could say it is, and the other, it definitely is. Two of the greatest animes in history delve into this, and we're talking about Rama Half and, of course, Tensei Muyo, which are both my favorite animes. That's in my top 10 animes of all time, is both of these. And you look at the time Tensei Muyo was at, and the thing is, there have been several series after that: Tensei Universe, Tensei in Love, War, more recent, the War in Geminar, and you see where we're going with this is that they criticize one anime, but meanwhile, there are tons out there that have been out for quite some time and no one has talked about them. No one has had any problem with them for years. But yet now you have that small little group, the small little handful of people on Twitter and Reddit and all these other websites that are just now criticizing it and saying, this is just awful. And it's been around. Manga has had this for many years. I also top back another one of my favorites currently right now, and I'm hoping, I'm still hoping for a season 2, is In Another World with My Cell Phone, which currently at the end of season 1, the main character, he's engaged to 4 women, to 4 young girls. And supposedly by the end, and I'm reading the light novel on it, he is supposed to be married to 9 by the time this series ends. And the thing is, you might say, well, oh God, he's a selfish pig for being that way. He just wants women and stuff like that. No, take a moment and watch these. And if you notice that the male character is constantly resisting this throughout most of these animes, Tenshi's always running away from the girls. The same thing in Another World with My Cell Phone. He's like, when the princess, decides she wants to marry him, and understand this, and people will freak out. He's 16 years old, she's 12 years old, and she wants to marry him, and he's like, whoa, wait a minute, she's 12 years old, I'm 16, we can't get married. Because you got to remember, he is reincarnated from our world into a world of fantasy, which basically, like I said, you have many years ago, thousands of years ago, where you had marriages that were with very young girls at the time. Things changed throughout the years, and the age kept increasing at certain points. And you look to even today, you have some, even this country, there are some states that the legal age is still 16. And there are those out in the world that are trying to reduce it again. Like France was in the middle of trying to reduce it down to 15. I think they got it. Did they get it down to 15? I think they got it down to 15. But they're trying to get it down lower, which that, in today's age, no, you don't want that to happen on there. But when you get back to the anime version, you see that the main character is like, no, I don't want to marry her. I'm too young. She's too young. And then they decide, well, we'll wait and, we'll grow our relationship, as we go along. And when the time is right, then, okay, we'll get married on there. And it's the same thing with the other girls, which they're all teens in this. And and I think there's one other girl that is underage as well, that wants to marry him. And, he's like, no, I mean, he's sitting there, he's being the shy guy. He's like, well, there's a little, as they say, fan service in this series. And it's the same thing with Tenchi and a couple of the others, that there's fan service to that nature. But it's not extensive. We're not talking a redo the healer in this case, or high school DxD, which that goes to a bit to the extreme when it comes to, adult content, which you got a lot more nudity in that versus something like a Tenchi or Another World with a cell phone. Like there's one partial scenes, no, actually, I'm sorry, two partial scenes in this so far. I wouldn't call the robot that scene because you don't see much on that. Yeah, let's say three. Let's go with three. Three scenes in the entire series that just basically, you could say it's like, okay, there's a little skin here and there. And the thing is, and the funny part is the whole situation is a lot of times they'll say, well, it's a male that's written this, and they did on. Look up the writers to some of this stuff. There are a lot of women who have written some of these stories. And there's a lot of men who've written these stories as well, and there's no problem with that. They're just story, and I keep repeating myself. It's just a story. It's just a story. It's it's not uncommon to have something like this in this genre, and it's nothing wrong with it. The problem is with the industry right now, and as far as Hollywood, is they like the virtual signal. See, in the case when you want to do a situation similar to the harem, you probably do one from a gay point of view where it's one guy with multiple guys, which technically that it can happen in anime itself, and there is ones out there that have an LGBTQ situations out there, which has been common also for many years as well. But when it comes to here in the West, they're trying to virtual signal, like the current West Side Story movie, the Steven Spielberg West Side Story movie, which is coming out now, which they're just flagging out one character who happens to be a transgender integrate, whatever, this is 1950. We don't have this stuff in that period. Yes, we've had men dressed like women and women dressed like men in that period, but not like the way they're saying today as far as the titles that they put on it. It wasn't that back then in the 1950s, and if anything, most people that did it were not out in the open really much. There were some, but not as much as them, because it wasn't really the 50s. If anything, the 50s, it's the sort of the Leave It to Beaver moments in that era, and Happy Days and stuff like that. So it's different periods, even though there were some bad things in that period as well, going into the 50s, the 60s. Everything has its issues. But getting back to the harem anime, there's nothing wrong with this Demon Slayer arc. I've been wanting to see it because I was told by certain people it happens to be a good arc, the Entertainment District arc. It happens to be a good one. The villain in this one, the demon, happens to be a very strong one, especially the one that they had just fought off Mugen Train at the end, which unfortunately one of the characters, if you haven't seen Mugen Train, I do apologize, one of the characters dies off fighting this demon that gets away after they fought the Mugen Train demon. But supposedly the one that's coming up now in the Entertainment District is supposed to be even stronger. Like I said, the backdrop of the history itself is very interesting because you can't hide this stuff. And the thing about it is that, like I said, Hollywood wants to virtual signal out things. And they will change history to adjust to what they want people to see. And that is wrong. You can't hide history. In order to learn from our mistakes, we need to see our mistakes that we have done. Whether it's about slavery, polygamy, drug addiction, war, there are many things that have happened in history. If we can't look back at history, how are we going to resolve the problems for the future? And that's the thing, with people out there, they just want to hide things. They want to remove statues and remove any information on there, change characters, change historical characters. Like Amber Lynn, the BBC where they race swapped a historical character because they said, well, it's much better this way. No, it's not. You're changing history. It's the same thing with The Witcher, and they add multiple peoples of different races in The Witcher, and no, that time period in that era, there wasn't. It's like saying put a Mexican in Japan during the feudal era, which that really didn't happen. The world was much smaller then. People weren't just flying everywhere. You might say, well, there was an African there. So, yeah, but he was taken there. But it wasn't like Africans were going back and forth to Japan at that time. Travel took weeks, months. It was not something like you could jump on a plane today, be there in a couple of hours. The time it took to get anywhere, people really didn't travel. And like I said, there are those out there who just want to change the history. I mean, this past week we heard from someone that said the Roman Empire never existed. Well, we'll see the entertainment arc when it starts up, or by now, by the time this video is out, the first episode will have dropped because they generally, I catch it on Hulu on Sundays with my Mushiko Tensei, which that's been fantastic. And I've been trying to get a video out there, but eventually I'll get a video out talking about that very soon. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share. Have yourself a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye now.